Happy Friday, everyone. Congratulations, you have made it through another week. I want to apologize that Martin's not here with me this week to say hello. He wanted to be, but he and Lincoln are inside doing school. And so I do want to take a moment and just brag on my wife. She has done an amazing job at this whole be a teacher to your kids at home thing. She has really picked that ball up and run with it. And I know there's plenty of others that have as well. This hasn't been a normal time for anybody, and yet for all of you who have taken on roles that you didn't plan to take on, done things that you didn't plan on having to do, I want to commend you and tell you that, man, you've done such an amazing job at all the things that have been put on your plate that you may not have put there yourself. Just want you to know that you're appreciated, and people do understand the work that you've put in. So the last month or so, the youth group on Wednesday nights has been studying the life of Joseph in Genesis. And Joseph is one of those people in Scripture that I love his story. I hate the things that he went through, and yet I love that we get to read how God was working. And so for those that may not know, Joseph is the one who was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was a slave. He was falsely accused and thrown in prison. And from there, he goes on to become the second most powerful person in all of Egypt, and ultimately the second most powerful person in the world, basically. And while Joseph's life often reads like a tragedy, what we read, because we have Scripture, is how many times we see the phrase, "and the Lord was with Joseph." And so even in the midst of things going horribly wrong, even in the midst of him being sold into slavery and him being a slave and him being a prisoner, time and time and time again, the book of Genesis tells us the Lord was with Joseph. And it's such a good reminder for us that we don't always see the whole picture. And so while we may be focused on the tragedy, we may be focused on how hard things are, behind the scenes, the Lord is still with us. And that's such a great reminder to us, so that even when we may not know how God is working, even when we may not know what God's plans are, it's great to know that the Lord is still with us. And I love that you get to the end of Joseph's story in Genesis, and his brothers are worried that Joseph's going to enact some revenge on them for the way that they treated him. And Joseph says these words. He says, "What you intended for harm, the Lord intended for good." And you see, Joseph had this understanding that even when things didn't go the way that he wanted them to, the Lord was still working. And I just want to encourage you with that this morning. The Lord is still working. None of this is what we planned. None of this is probably what we would have chosen for ourselves. And yet trust and know that the Lord is still working. The Lord is still with you. Guys, I love you. I can't wait to be with you again. But please know, we are united through the blood of Christ. I'm thankful that I get to call you brothers and sisters. And that doesn't change because we're distant. And so if you need anything, let me know. Reach out to me, reach out to the church, the elders, or Richard. And just know, even in this, the Lord is with us. I love you guys.